On my 21st birthday, my parents handed me $50 and said it was from my grandma. A month later, my grandma came to visit and asked if I got the 10,000 she sent for my birthday. I said I only got 50. Then she slammed the table so hard the glasses shook. My parents were not poor. My dad worked in insurance and my mom was a bookkeeper. They lived in a nice house, drove decent cars, and never missed a vacation. But they were cheap with me specifically. My older sister Brooklyn got a car when she turned 16. I got a bus pass. Brooklyn got her college paid for. I got told to apply for scholarships. Brooklyn's wedding 2 years ago cost my parents $45,000. When I asked if there was any money set aside for my education, they said, "We've invested in Brooklyn because she showed more promise." That's a direct quote. I will never forget those words. For my 21st birthday, I didn't expect much. They took me out to dinner at a chain restaurant, split an appetizer 3 ways, and at the end of the meal, my mom handed me a card. Inside was $50 cash and a note that said, "Happy 21st, love Grandma." I called my grandma the next day to thank her. She was in the middle of something and said she'd talk to me later. She didn't mention an amount, so I figured 50 was it. I was grateful. $50 was $50. A month later, my grandma drove down from Vermont to visit for the weekend. She was sitting at the kitchen table with me while my parents were out grocery shopping. She said, "So did you do anything nice with the birthday money?" I said, "Yeah, I took my buddy out for dinner. The 50 covered most of it." She put her coffee down. She said, "50?" I said, "Yeah, the $50 you sent in the card." She stared at me for about 5 seconds. Then she said, "I didn't send you $50. I sent your parents a check for $10,000 with your name on it. I wrote it 3 weeks before your birthday and mailed it directly to this house because I wanted them to give it to you in person." I felt my stomach drop. I said, "Grandma, they gave me a card with $50 in it. That's all I got." She said, "Where's the rest?" I said, "I don't know. I didn't know there was a rest." She picked up her phone and called my dad. He didn't answer. She called again. Nothing. She called a third time and he picked up. She said, "Where's the $10,000 I sent for my grandson's birthday?" I could hear my dad's voice through the phone but couldn't make out the words. My grandma's face went from confused to furious in about 2 seconds. She said, "You cashed that check and gave him $50? She listened for another few seconds and then she slammed her hand on the kitchen table so hard the salt shaker fell over and my water glass